Hi, I'm Tori Simpson, Managing Director at ResourceiT, and I'm here today to talk about pride, and we're talking about what that means for companies and what that means to me personally. And I'm joined by my best friend, Alex Wright. We've been best friends for 15 years. He is a Solutions Director at an event agency. So let's get into it. Alex, what does pride mean to you?
I think it means being authentic. I think a lot of people within the community spend years and years and years hiding who they are or masking who they are. And actually, for me, pride is about being your 100% self. And even if you haven't figured that out completely yet, or you're still on the journey, I think it's about being 100% genuine and celebrating who you are as a person as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that need for authenticity means so much to me. And you used to do quite a lot of volunteering with young people, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I think it was actually back when I worked in London for a company that actually didn't really celebrate diversity very publicly. But so once a week I used to volunteer for a youth charity, which was just a few hours in the evening for a local group where young LGBTQ plus people could come and just be themselves and meet like-minded persons as well and be supported. And it also meant that we could kind of direct them to support services if they need. And actually there was a few times where parents could see that their children were struggling, would actually kind of bring them along and to meet these fellow young people with kind of going through the same experiences, and that was really powerful actually. And I think certainly our relationship over the years, I think you've always been an unwavering support to me, and I've never once questioned the kind of validity behind your feelings either. It's always just kind of ingrained in you as a person, and that's really important to me as well.
That means loads. I think that knowledge that somebody is accepted, and I think that's what our friendship's always been based on, that kind of total acceptance, and almost like that we maybe badly encourage each other, you do you, but in totally being who you are. And I think that's whether that's about kind of the pride community and things like that, but just feeling like you can just be you, is really important, I think, and solid reason for our friendship.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do you.
Always got your back.
Definitely. For me, pride is about inclusivity, and I think I particularly experienced that. I was really, really bullied at school, and when I first met you, I think I was 16. I think you were 19.
Yeah, I think so.
We just instantly clicked, and it was that feeling of total acceptance. I identify as a straight cis female, but it was that feeling of acceptance. And I think for pride for me is making anybody feel accepted and doing something about that. And I think it's why things need to happen, and I want to talk about that today. What was your first pride? What was your first experience?
The actual pride kind of full experience, I've obviously seen it on TV and all that kind of stuff, but my first ever one was actually really soon after I came up to my mum, about a ripe old age of 21, I think it was. And that was a journey for us both, which is another story. But we actually travelled up to London, of all places, one of the biggest ones in the entire world, right? So to experience that with her for the first time and actually be surrounded by people that are like me and from my community and accepting and not, batting an eyelid about what you're wearing or just, having a good time. Mm-hmm. So to be in that kind of environment for the first time with someone as special as my Rishi was really amazing.
I love that. I love that so much about Maxine, in that she's let's go to Pride. It's such a wonderful behaviour to have experienced. There's that kind of, first oh my God, my son's come out as gay, and then let's go to Pride.
Yeah.
Love it.
She was, surprised at the time, but she took it upon herself to go and educate herself. And she needed support as well from various charities such as PFLAG, which is parental support for adults with kids in the community. And so yeah, she took it upon herself to go on her own journey in order to support me on mine, as I was at the beginning of it as well.
We love that. And I think like we've been to Pride together a few times.
Yeah, we have.
It's such a wonderful place to be. Like you mentioned earlier, like everyone dresses how they want to dress, and they don't it's just that feeling of inclusion. That Pride is such a wonderful feeling that I don't think you can experience until you've actually been there. Like just feeling so safe.
Yeah.
And what do you think about like Pride in the workplace? Like, what does that mean for you? What difference does it make?
Yeah, I think for me personally, because I'm out and proud and everyone at work knows, all those kind of things, it's never been an issue for me in my workplace. I'm lucky in that respect. But for me, it's just nice to have that kind of acknowledgement, but also that it's that nod that it's a safe space regardless of who you are as well. So even, you don't know what, everyone is on the inside or, or in their personal lives. So even just having some subtle decorations in the office is a nod to, the wider acceptance and the culture of your company.
Yeah, I think I remember back in the days when you were working for a law firm in London, and it was like, oh, we've got an event, and we used to be each other's +1s and things like that, didn't we? And it was like, if Pride was in the workplace was more back then, you would have felt really comfortable actually at a much earlier age with, the inclusivity of that in the workplace. I think that's really important to me as a leader of a business that, ResourceiT doesn't necessarily have anybody or that we know of that identifies in the community, but I want everybody to know that they are in a safe space, and I think for me it's the participation in Pride. Like, I think there's so many people still that aren't ready to come out or aren't comfortable with who they are or don't necessarily even know. I think people, workplaces participate, that person that's sort of confused or doesn't know what to do or is feeling lost sees their mum or their dad or their friend participating in Pride in the workplace and enjoying it and having fun, and it's going to mean so much more to that person. Actually, okay, this is all right. And I think that's why I feel so passionately about people, even if they're not from the community, there's still a need to talk about Pride, to do stuff around it, to be open with it, to be inclusive always. One of the things I was reading this morning, actually, in a Forbes article, that businesses that are LGBTQIA inclusive are more profitable generally. And I was like, I can feel it, right? Employees are happier, employees are more comfortable, they're being more themselves at work. And I think that's rooted in my kind of leadership values, is that like authenticity at work. Yeah. That makes people more trusting and trusted and feeling themselves, and they're who they are. I think the relation of it is so huge for me, that fundamentally you're more profitable if you're more inclusive. And I think that's a big thing for businesses to really properly think about. And if you're a business leader and thinking, oh, we've got budget to spend on Pride, it's like, actually, what return are you going to get from it?
I suppose that helps with, increasing your talent pool as well, because, young people especially expect an inclusive and flexible workspace. And if you're shouting that loud and proud, then you're going to, people are going to want to come work for you.
Without a doubt. I think that's it's the biggest thing that we've been working on recently, is our culture. And, it's really, really important to me. And I think the second that I sort of took the reins with Pride events and women in technology and International Women's Day and racial equality and things like that, is inclusivity is so huge to me. And the return from it, actually, like if you it's not just the personal investment for me, as at the end of the day I run a business, and the return is enormous. Like it's about the connections that you develop, you know, in the community, is that people want to support Pride and they want to work with an agency that is inclusive.
Yeah.
You know, us winning that, we won the second best place to work in the UK, right? Is we wouldn't have done that without who we fundamentally are, and it's not fake at all. Like it's who I am, and it's who loads of people in this business are. But the return from it is so clear, that no matter what your kind of drivers are, is it's the right thing to do. And Pride being part of that, but all areas of inclusivity and diversity is massive.
Yeah.
So what difference do you think it makes, like workplaces putting on Pride events and decorations and talking about Pride more openly?
Like you say previously, I think it helps foster a culture of inclusivity. And, you know, a lot of people are shy and introverted when it comes to their personal lives and who they are. But even just for companies to put on a small celebration, or, you know, raise something for charity, or, you know, even just raising awareness by changing their brand logo, you know, those kinds of things really just are a kind of polite and subtle nod to your employees or staff that you're a welcoming and inclusive employer.
You love that. I think I saw loads in the press last year, in the press on LinkedIn, about people getting really kind of like angry with companies that were just putting a rainbow logo up there.
Yeah.
And I've got quite a strong disagreement with that feeling, but from a small business perspective. So, like, as a small business, we or other small businesses might not be able to afford to do kind of something massive, or have the HR resource to have a whole kind of policy around inclusivity, or and I think actually changing a logo or just putting up some, you know, £2.50 Amazon decorations is actually a huge step in the right direction. And I think what I worry about is, you know, you see that on LinkedIn and you might be a small business owner, which is where likely the need is actually for that kind of local community engagement around Pride with actual people.
Yeah.
Being put off by that and like, oh, I can't just change my logo then. Like, yes, you can and you should, is how I feel about it.
Absolutely.
I think big businesses, you know, it's that rainbow pound, gay pound.
Yeah, pink pound.
I agree, and I'm like, you know, they need to have the policies, and they do, and I love that. Like when we've been at Pride and there's these like great big floats of these massive companies. I mean, I think they're much more inclusive. But what do you think about, you know, what companies need to do around Pride, of kind of locally, globally, small, big?
Yeah, I think certainly locally you can make a really, really big impact. You know your staff, you know your colleagues, your friends. You spend a lot of time with each other. So I think if there's any way to kind of celebrate them or yourself and, you know, who you are, then celebrate locally. Do something really small, something intimate, something subtle, and you'd be surprised at the impact it could have on someone that maybe is questioning or, you know, not out, or even if they are out, it can still have a really positive impact.
Yeah, definitely. I think we do. We started every year. We do a bake sale. Because with ResourceiT, anything has to involve food. And that one year, I decided to make rainbow sausage rolls. So it took me hours and hours and hours. And then the next year, I was like, are you making those rainbow sausage rolls again? I was like, oh no. I did. But like even in our local, we've like printed off some posters, like bake sale. And so many people came because they want to celebrate Pride, or because they want some cake. Like that kind of, I think that's really important, is that people that maybe won't, like, oh, well, I'm not gay or LGBTQIA, or so I don't need to celebrate Pride. Actually, yeah, you do, and you should, and you should be publicly involved in that, and you know, make someone you don't even necessarily know, but is part of the community, but are really close to.
Yeah.
Feel good about telling you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What like activities and things have you done around Pride or seen in the workplace that you've been like, oh yeah, I want to do that? Or
yeah, so speaking from locally in our office, we're lucky to have a really amazing ally who was actually a real dear friend of mine, and she is always a trailblazer every year when it comes around to May and June. And you know, we're all really busy delivering events and doing all the things we usually do, but she always takes the time to create some educational pieces as well. So, for example, we have a revolving a fact presentation that is up on the TV in the kitchen, which is, examples of movies and music and those kinds of things. But also there's, some political things, certainly around, different parties and their policies and those kind of things. So really we just use it as an educational piece, and having all the different types of flags and what they mean and who they're for is also a really important part of this.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a good idea. Like, such an easy thing to put together. I think we might do that. It's like, what do the flags mean? It's just like those facts that you learn, and then someone like comes up, doesn't it? And you're like, oh, I know what that means.
Exactly. Yeah.
We did a pub quiz last year that I put on around Pride, which was really fun. And it always, for me, is we've got such a competitive spirit, like friendly one in the office, but encouraging that fun about it of you're learning and educating, but also enjoying it at the same time.
Yeah. I think people are always a little bit worried about making a mistake as well when it comes to these kinds of things. So certainly the quizzes and, presentations, and even just the discussions amongst each other in the office is a really good chance to kind of debunk some myths and ask some questions in a kind of comfortable space.
Yeah, I do think people really worry about saying the wrong thing, and I think if I've been so educated over the years, myself, you, at Pride, all sorts of different things about what you can and can't say.
Yeah.
And I think what I love to build on, particularly in our business, is that openness, and that it's okay to say the wrong thing if it's coming from the right place.
Yeah.
And no one's gonna, we're not gonna have a great big court case and all of that. If you're wanting to be diverse and inclusive and it's coming from the right place, that the best thing you can do is have an open culture of learning about it, and not feel frightened. And I think that's what a lot of corporates feel, is I can't put out a video around Pride in case I say the wrong thing, or I can't do this or that. And I think I personally, and that's why I wanted to chat to you really about this, is, do you feel the same, that people should be more open, and that if it's coming from the right place of wanting to learn?
Yeah, 100%. I think things are always changing as well. So it's not just a one-time thing when you can learn something or learn what flags mean or know what to say. These things are ever evolving. So you need to keep up to date. And you can only really do that by kind of self-education and having open and honest, dynamic conversations around these things.
I think it's also feeling more comfortable to push back, when there's still homophobia. It's still, we think, oh yeah, this is all, everyone's diverse, inclusive, but there's still homophobia in all sorts of ways, in all sorts of places. Yeah. And I think workplaces talking more about Pride and doing stuff around it makes someone feel much more comfortable and educated to push back when they hear it. You might be visiting grandparents or something, and they say, I don't know what, and I don't particularly want to say it, but they say something, you say, no, that's not what you say anymore, say this. Yeah. And kind of feeling much more comfortable to be push back when it's heard, and kind of spread that around everybody's world.
And taking the kind of opportunity and seizing the opportunity to call something like that out when you hear it is actually really powerful, and it makes you, a really, really good ally, and it's kind of the cornerstone of being an ally.
Mm-hmm. My mum said to me, actually, I think it was only a couple of years ago, I'm in my head a really fierce ally, right? I won't stand for it. And I have had so many stand-up arguments with people about Pride, particularly, or kind of racial equality, or whatever. When I hear it, and I get really angry, actually. And my mum said to me, so one of the strongest ways you can be an ally is to calmly and rationally educate someone and tell them it's not okay, not lose your mind about it. And I was like, So since then I've really focused on no, I'm not going to call someone out and make them feel bad and have an argument about it. I'm just going to say that's not right. You can't say that, and this is why, and then just leave it at that. And I think it's learning that. It meant so much to me to actually, you know, hear that and be like, oh, okay. It's not having around changing someone's mind, and it's just saying no and letting them kind of stew it and think about it and learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So what do you think businesses should do immediately around Pride? Like, if you're a local or a small business, like, what is your like first thing that people should be doing? It's Pride Month. It's June. Like, what's the first step?
I think get your staff on board. You know, just, you know, is it Monday? Is first day of June that people are going to be in the office? Let's get an email in people's inbox and, you know, let them know that it's Pride Month, and ask people what they want to do to help celebrate as well. You know, it's not always on business leaders to drive these directives. I think, you know, do something locally, do something with your colleagues or friends, and yeah, just make a start.
Yeah, like you say, it's not necessarily a business leader's job, right? It's, you said you've got like a really strong ally. We do it as a team. Like, it started out with me, even when I wasn't a leader, but it started out with me. Like, right, come on, you know, I bought some flags, let's go and do a bake sale. And actually, everybody in our business gets involved in it, which I love. Like, oh, we could do this. And I think there was a chat the other day about doing a great big event, and I'm like, I love that, but it's this month. I think it's just getting that fun injected into businesses, of it being, you know, and I love Pride so much as a celebration.
Exactly.
You know, it's still quite a lot of the messaging last year was about Pride as a protest. And you know, it changes so much, like you say, and so quickly. But I think for me, I love the fun of it. You know, it's such you educate and you share and you talk about it, and we raise money for Pride charities and things like that. But it's also really fun. You know, it's wicked fun. And like, I've had the best fun ever, like going to Pride and, you know, with us as friends and camping, and couldn't believe I never enjoyed camping. I'm not sure that's my favourite part. But it's that fun for businesses, I think.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
Add it to your social calendar.
For sure. Love it. Well, thank you.
Thank you.